Hey guys, welcome to another Top 10 video. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Top 10 PHP frameworks to learn in 2017. We're going to go over the features, the advantages, and some of the disadvantages of each framework, and they're ranked by popularity, ease of use, features, as well as my own experience and opinions. So let's go ahead and get started. This video is sponsored by .tech. Having a .tech domain really emphasizes the technology aspect of your business and website. Click on the link in the description and get a .tech domain today for just $4.99 using the code Traversy. Alright, so jumping right in at number 10, we have the Nette framework. This is a pure object-oriented framework, well, as close as PHP can get to pure object-oriented programming, and it embraces the dry concept, which is don't repeat yourself. This makes for a very clean code base. Nette also includes some really nice debugging tools such as Traversy, which helps you quickly detect and correct errors, dump variables, among other debug tasks. It also uses the Latte, I'm not exactly sure how you say that, but it's a templating engine which eases your work and ensures output is protected against things like cross-site scripting attacks. Alright, so at number 9 we have Yi 2, which is a rewrite of the popular Yi framework. Yi is very mature. It was released, I believe, back in 2008, and it's still fully supported. Yi 2 is a high-performance framework that works really well for large-scale enterprise applications, but it's also not a bad choice for smaller projects. It has a really nice authentication and security package. It's relatively easy to set up, even though Yi can be used on enterprise level. It still employs some good rapid development techniques, and we can attribute a lot of that to Gi, which is a code generator that we can run in the command line. Alright, so one common downfall with Yi that I've heard a few times is that the code is a little bit messy. It's not as organized and as clean as many other frameworks. Alright, so at number 8 we have FuelPHP. I've done a few videos on Fuel a couple years ago. I found it to be really simple and flexible, okay? Simple relative to other frameworks. Fuel also has a command line interface called Oil. It does things like code generation, database migrations, debugging, and more. Fuel uses an integrated ORM, or object relational mapper, that makes working with databases very elegant and easy compared to just writing out SQL queries. Alright, you can virtually use any template engine you want with FuelPHP. You can use Mustache, Jade, Twig, and many others. There's also some really good security features such as input and URL filtering, cross-site scripting protection, output encoding, and much more. Fuel is very new. Well, it's not very new, but it's new compared to a lot of the more old-school frameworks, so there's not as big as a community and as much support. Alright, so at number 7 we have Zend. Now, Zend is about a decade old, I believe, and it's arguably the most popular framework for enterprise-level applications. So big companies like BBC and Cisco use Zend. On the downside, Zend is pretty tough to learn. I have a series on it on YouTube, and I did struggle with it a little bit with some of the syntax and some of the structure of the application. Zend uses the agile methodology, which is incredibly powerful but can get a little tricky. Zend has tons of components available to extend your application, and most of these are reusable, so that's very efficient. But again, it is kind of difficult to learn. I definitely would not suggest Zend as a first framework. Alright, so at number 6 we have Slim, which is actually one of my favorite newer frameworks. It's classified as a micro framework, and I believe it's the lightest popular PHP framework that's out right now. Hence the name Slim. So if we were doing a top list of frameworks for building REST APIs, I'm almost positive that Slim would be number 1. It almost feels like Node.js and Express, the way that it handles routes and HTTP and middleware. I do have a video on creating a RESTful API with Slim, so you might want to check that out. It also supports encrypted cookies, flash messaging, templates, and much more. So even though it is slim, it's packed with features and has very little overhead. Alright, so at number 5 we have CakePHP. So I think Cake was released back in like 2005, 2006. So it's very mature, it's very stable. There's a great community behind it. All of these frameworks that we're talking about have specific areas where some shine and some don't. And when it comes to rapid development and prototyping, CakePHP is definitely at the top. It uses scaffolding that feels very much like Ruby on Rails. We can create CRUD applications extremely quickly. It's also very secure. It has CSRF support. It protects against things like cross-site scripting. It also has a really impressive showcase. Companies like BMW and Hyundai have used CakePHP in their platforms. Cake also is, it has a pretty decent learning curve. There's no complicated configuration settings or anything like that. And like I said, you can get things up and running really quickly. So at number 4, we have Phalcon, or Phalcon PHP, which has been labeled the fastest PHP framework. And one of the reasons that Phalcon is so fast is because it's based as a C extension. It's written in C and C++, and no, you don't need to know a single C function to use Phalcon. That's all behind the scenes. And it's great for managing system resources. It uses very little overhead, and what I mean is it has really low memory and CPU consumption. Phalcon has a very helpful auto-loading mechanism, which follows PSR4, which is a specification for loading classes from file paths. So it makes things pretty efficient. Phalcon applications are also very secure with a lot of built-in features. All right, so I would definitely recommend checking out Phalcon PHP. All right, so number 3, we have CodeIgniter, which is also a pretty mature framework. This was actually the first PHP framework that I learned, and this is how I learned about MVC, about the Model View Controller Design Pattern. Now, strict MVC isn't required with CodeIgniter. You do need to use controllers, but models and views are actually optional. Now, it's not as elegant and clean looking as some of the other frameworks, but it does force you to learn certain things that you wouldn't learn from some other platforms. All right, because a lot of the stuff you have to actually type out, you have to code yourself instead of using some kind of command line utility to generate things. All right, what else? Another huge plus to CodeIgniter is how easy it is to deploy. You can buy a $5 per month hosting account, shared hosting account, and just FTP your files, connect to a database, and your site is going to be deployed. All right, it also outperforms many of the other frameworks. It's very light, around 2 megabytes or so, but of course, as you add plugins and other functionality, that size is going to grow. Okay, it also has really great documentation. Just about everything you can do, every aspect of CodeIgniter has pretty good documentation and support. So at number 2, we have the Symfony framework, which is another one that's ideal for enterprise level applications. It's used a lot in the corporate world, along with Zend and E2. It's also used by some pretty impressive projects such as Drupal, which is a PHP content management system, as well as PHP which is a popular forum platform. Symfony is known for utilizing reusable components, which makes development much faster than using something like Zend. Components can be installed using Composer, which is a PHP dependency manager. Symfony is one of the fastest frameworks of its size. It's been around for quite a bit, so it actually has a really strong community and strong support. It's also very easy to use different databases with your application, such as MySQL or Postgres or even NoSQL. All right, and that brings us to the top position, which is Laravel. The Laravel framework is extremely popular and respected in the PHP community and even in the web dev community in general, as bad as of a rap as PHP gets sometimes. So the creators of Laravel have said that they aim to make web development more enjoyable and elegant without sacrificing quality. Some frameworks are geared toward small projects, some are enterprise level. Laravel is actually a great choice for either one, okay? So applications of any size. The built-in authentication is incredible. It uses Blade templating, which is actually one of my personal favorite template engines. It's very easy and it's also very powerful. Laravel also uses Eloquent, which is an ORM, to interact with the database. It's much cleaner than writing raw SQL queries, although you can do that with this standard DB library. It also uses Artisan, which is a command line tool for doing all kinds of things, such as generating controllers and models, providers. It can run database migrations, display routes, and much, much more. All right, guys, so that's my top 10 overall PHP frameworks. But here's a summary of which frameworks I think are better for certain situations. So, as I said earlier, the Slim framework is incredible for building REST APIs. Symfony, Zend, and E2 are great for enterprise-level platforms. They're a bit more difficult, but also very powerful. For speed and performance, we have Phalcon PHP, which is based on C and C++ and manages resources really well and all that. And when it comes to rapid development, CakePHP is at the top with their scaffolding tools. When it comes to ease of use and learning, I personally suggest CodeIgniter. Nette, I haven't really worked with too much, but seems pretty easy to learn the basics of. And then the overall best, we have Laravel, which is pretty good in almost all situations. Alright, so hopefully this video gave you guys a little insight. Of course, every developer is different and learns in different ways, so there's no clear-cut list that's going to work for everybody. But the best we can do is look at the pros and cons and factor in our experience. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, and please come and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I'm trying to get more interactive with the community, and it'll keep you guys up to date with everything I'm doing. So thanks, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, this video was sponsored by .tech. Having a .tech domain over a .com or a .net really emphasizes the technology aspect of your business and website. You also have a much better chance of getting the domain name that you really want. .tech domains are perfect for technology companies, startups, YouTubers, blogs, and just about anyone else that has anything at all to do with technology. You can get yourself a .tech domain today for just $4.99 using the code Traversy. Check the link in the description below for more information.